Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So it's Tuesday, which means it's time for our weekly tier list. And because the playoffs just started, I had to do something playoff related. So today we're going to be looking at every single playoff team's forward core, the overall package, how good's their top six, how good's their bottom six. I'm obviously going to weigh the top six a lot more than the bottom six. Are they good both ways of the ice, not just offensively? The whole thing, the whole shebang. We got 4 different tiers. I usually do 5 tiers, but considering there's only 16 teams in the playoffs instead of the normal 32 tier listing every single team, I think it's fair that we only go with 4. We got great, good, solid, meh. Pretty straightforward. Let's get into it. Up first, Washington Capitals, a pretty easy meh. There's besides Ovechkin's shot, there's really no difference makers within this forward core. I like Dylan Strome. I like some of their young guys like McMichael and Protas, but just no real wow factor, especially Kuznetsov wasn't playing good of late, but lose him at the deadline, lose Mantha at the deadline, which were good moves by them. But as a result, the Washington Capitals have a very uninspiring forward core, arguably the worst out of any playoff team because they are one of the worst teams out of any of the playoff teams. Next up, Florida Panthers. I think after the acquisition of Vladimir Tarasenko and how he's fit in, I think you got to have him great. They arguably have the best top 6 in the entire NHL at this point. They had to bump Evan Rodriguez, a guy that I absolutely love, down to the third line. I know you don't think Evan Rodriguez is the best player, but he's still a 40-point, fantastic two-way guy. Guys also on that third line like Lindell, Luostarinen are playing some of the best hockey of their entire career. Their 4th best forward this year is Carter Verhaeghe, who last year had 40 goals. This year was like near point per game. They're absolutely loaded. I think you got to have them in great. New York Rangers, I'm going to put them in good. Definitely teetering on great. I don't think that they're like a one-line reliant team like I thought maybe 2 to 3 months ago when it was really just the Panarin, Lafreniere, and Trocheck line producing at 5-on-5. But when looking at it, Kreider and Zibanejad have been playing much better of late. I don't think Roslovic and Wenberg were slam dunk hires, but replacing some of the guys that they did within the lineup upgraded this core. It's definitely a top 7, top 6 forward core in this entire playoffs, but I can't say it's absolutely great, especially considering we only have 60 in the overall scheme of the NHL. It's great, but we're not going to put 5 or 6 teams when we only have 16 teams total in great. Avalanche, I'm going to put in solid. I think that they just lack the depth. Obviously, McKinnon, Rantanen, fantastic. One of the best duos in the entire NHL. But beyond that, they don't have the depth that, say, they had back in 2022. They have solid depth. Casey Middlestat, Natrushkin, Duran's not playing, so I also got to factor that in when making this. It's right now what their forward core looks like. I think solid is pretty fair. You can teeter on good, but again, most playoff teams you're going to see, you might think I'm ridiculous for having Colorado and solid, but when you see the other playoff teams, you're going to say, oh, that makes more sense. So Colorado is staying in solid for now. The Edmonton Oilers, although they definitely are the example, as I said at the start, I care more about the top 6 than the bottom 6. They're the personification of that, although their bottom 6 is arguably their best of the McDavid era. When looking at it, Adam Henrique scored a goal last night. Looks pretty solid. They got guys like Warren Fogle in that bottom, or he might even be playing up. But they got depth forwards. Corey Perry was a nice add for them. So I think they're a lot more well-rounded. It's not just McDavid and Draisaitl carrying the entire forward core this year. Hyman, 60 goals. Nugent Hopkins, another very solid season. They're a lot more well-balanced this season than prior years, especially last year or, say, in 2022. Vancouver Canucks, again, there's a strong argument for great, but I am going to put them in good. I think that they would honestly be the best team that I'm going to have in good in this. When looking at it, they have a lot of depth. I talked about it in my last video. Unfortunately, in my last video, I posted that like 30 minutes before Demko got hurt. So last video, I said like 70% chance that they beat the Predators. That's probably down to like 55, but I digress. Not talking about that last video. And looking at the Canucks, that third line is really good. They lack some wingers within their top 6. I think they're playing like Hoglander's good, but they don't have quite elite. They're fantastic down the middle, but maybe they lack some winger talent that other forward cores have on this list. It's very good. You can make a strong argument for great, but I'm going to have him in good just right now. Winnipeg, I think I'm going to put in. It's very deep, but I don't think that there's like the superstars that these kind of forward cores have for the most part. They're 3, maybe even 4 lines deep, but do lack that high-end talent, maybe outside of Kyle Connor. Adam Lowry, I love as their third line center. Monahan was a very good pickup. Toffoli's doing very good, but I can't say. I might bump them up. Bump them up in a little bit. Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going to put them in good. We saw it in full display. 3 goals in the first period. They're just a big, heavy, skilled bunch after acquiring Thomas Hurdle in Mantha at the deadline. They absolutely beefed her up. Mark Stone made a miraculous recovery from a spleen injury. They're definitely in good. Toronto Maple Leafs, see, again, these forward cores are so goddamn good. The Leafs do lack some depth. If I'm looking at it, obviously without William Nylander, they'd be in solid, but I'm going to put them in good right now. It's a good forward core. They have three superstars when William Nylander are healthy. They have a bunch of other solid guys that round out the lineup. Bertuzzi has come on a lot in the second half of the season. Max Domi's solid. Matthew Knies is a good player. It's a good forward core overall. My New York Islanders, it's meh in the grand scheme of things. I think they have two elite forwards in Horvat and Barzal. Brock Nelson's one of the most underrated players in the entire NHL. Palmieri's playing some of the best hockey of the last 3 or 4 years of his career right now, but still, the bottom six is pretty uninspiring in terms of offense. Not that good of a forward core. The Boston Bruins, I could make an argument for meh, but I'm going to put him in solid. Pasta, still top 10 player in the entire NHL. Marchand, no longer the elite guy. They know their roles. Charlie Coyle, Pavel Zacha, neither of them are legit centers, legit number one centers, but they play their roles fantastic as the first and second line centers. But it's really nothing special right now. Pat Maroon on that first power play last night was funny as hell. I think Boston has a solid forward core. They're like distant between these two though. Not gonna lie. Tampa Bay, I'm gonna put in. Tampa Bay's tough because I don't like their bottom six. I'm gonna put them in good though. When you have 4 fantastic players within your top 6 in Nikita Kucherov, who arguably might win the Hart Trophy, Braden Point, Stamkos, and Brandon Hagel, it is still a good forward core. Dallas, I think you got to put in great. 3 lines deep, third line, talked about it at length. Ben, Stankoven, Johnston, that is disgusting. That's better than most teams like second lines in the overall NHL. It is arguably, probably in my opinion, the best overall forward core in the entire NHL. Carolina, again, you can make an argument for Carolina for great because they are so goddamn deep, but I can't quite put them there. No, I'm going to keep it just these 3 probably at the top. Carolina, yeah, they throw, and they're so good both ways of the ice, but I don't think that they have that high offensive explosion, especially with the way that they play, like, say, a Florida, an Edmonton, or a Dallas. LA Kings, it's solid. It has some solid depth, but similarly to a Winnipeg, no real superstar elevated player on that forward core. They have depth, but unless guys like PLD really step up in these playoffs, they're not going to be able to compete with the Edmonton Oilers, and we saw that on Monday night. And then lastly, I know you guys are probably screaming, those aren't playoff teams. I'm obviously not doing those teams. But lastly, the Nashville Predators, I am going to put them in meh when looking at Nashville. Past that first line, it's not the best. It's not the best. It's like who's that second line center? I'm blanking on his name right now because I honestly forget. Colton Sissons is their second line center with like Jason Zucker, Mark Jankowski. Evangelista's a nice piece, but on an actual high level playoff team, we'd be stuck on that third line, maybe even fourth line. Nashville, they're going to win with their defense and their goaltending. But overall, this is it. I think I might move Winnipeg up, potentially. If I were, I'm going to move Winnipeg up. Winnipeg deserves to be good. People are probably commenting back from when I put Winnipeg down there. But I think this is overall solid. Again, Colorado has a ton of 2 stars, but I don't like their depth overall. Yeah, pretty solid. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? And I'll be seeing you in the next one.